My name's Bob Straight. I've been painting for close to 35 or 40 years. I've been with this gallery with Schmidt Dean, Chris Schmidt, for close to 13 years, I think. The time really flies. I grew up in Texas, went to school in California, Cal State Long Beach. Then I went to Cranbrook Academy of Art for my MFA. I currently teach at the University of Delaware. The paintings sort of started out with these laser cut pieces of paper. That's been a thing in my work for 4 or 5 years. They came about because of this tree that I planted about 20 years ago. In the wintertime, I think that it's just really beautiful. Without any leaves, it's almost like veins or skeletal parts. What happens is I took a photograph of this tree, transformed that into a black and white photograph, which was then cut by a laser. And it's what the laser does. It actually takes a piece of paper and burns out the negative spaces. The paper has been transformed into like a silhouette of the tree branches, and it gets quite a bit more complex because you're seeing all these layers. Before those are put onto the painting, I paint the paper itself. And that gets adhered to the surface of the painting. And then I will cover the painting with a color and then wipe it off. That color coagulates around the laser cut paper. So technically it is kind of like an etching plate or an intaglio plate where you put the ink on and then wipe it off. A lot of the process in these paintings is not only just additive, but it's subtractive. I think probably as much paint gets wiped off of the paintings as actually remains on the paintings. I've been using things that come from industry. Some of the paintings have safety fences in them. This part of this particular painting is from bird netting. It's plastic netting that you put over your fruit trees so that the birds don't get the fruit before you do. These are on wood panels. I stretch that over the panel and then build up layers of acrylic paint, then pull that off, and then paint the entire surface and wipe it off immediately so that it catches in that indentation or intaglio that's in the painting. They make great patterns, and they also reference the grid, which is interesting to me, that whole historical idea of Mondrian's paintings and how a grid has been so important to painting. I suppose the color is the thing that's most noticeable in these paintings. I sort of decided that instead of trying to be subtle or use only earth colors, I thought trying to go for the most outrageous kind of colors possible would be something that I wanted to shoot for. I think as an artist, you're always kind of on the edge where something is too beautiful. It's not quite serious enough if it's too beautiful. And I decided that maybe that's not something that I should concern myself with. I'm more interested in how color works. I think that you can use color in a way that starts to be suggestive without just being purely decorative. Because they're random and almost string-like, they have something to do with string theory. They also have something to do with perhaps Jackson Pollock's paintings.
I have to tell you that when I look at your paintings, they remind me of certain Japanese artists a lot.
I don't mind that at all. Yeah, in fact, I kind of like that because those artists sometimes are lumped into this kind of decorative idea, and they also influenced a number of historical artists, especially the Impressionists.
I just want to know if these things have any sort of relationship to landscape.
I think it's more like perhaps Monet's water lilies, where you're looking down on it.
Yeah.
Some of Monet's paintings, you'll see the water lilies, and then you'll see the reflection of the sky, and you'll see fish underneath.
Yeah.
You know, so you're seeing all these different levels. There are references to landscape, but more in that sense.
Abstract sense.
Yeah. I had a show in Washington at the Science Institute. Because of that, a lot of mathematicians got interested in my work. It was crazy because, you know, to me it was like counting almost, 1, 2, 3, 4. More musical perhaps. They were seeing these big
scheme. They were reading all this high-level mathematic physics into the work.
Yeah.
Physics things. They would get calls from these magazines about Bob's work and wanting to reproduce it because the scientists felt that the imagery was close to like quantum mechanics.
I'm interested in that, but I'm not patient enough.
Yeah.
Like string theory, I'm interested in the way people see how the world's tied together. But I don't want these to be scientific experiments, you know.
Were you good in math as a kid?
No, terrible, really bad.
So you're compensating for your mathematical weakness?
I guess so. Their paintings, they're visual. The painting has a life of its own after a point. It's not just having an image, but the image starts coming from this whole series of maneuvers.
There you go. I think they're pretty wonderful.